This episode of Baseball Bits is brought to you by The Athletic, home to the best baseball coverage available. Head over to theathletic.com/foolishbaseball for a free 30-day trial, as well as 50% off your annual subscription fee. It was the 2005 NLCS, Game 5, 9th inning, Cardinals at Astros. Houston was 1 out away from reaching the World Series, but representing the go-ahead run was Albert Pujols, the most feared hitter in the National League. He stepped into the batter's box to face Brad Lidge, who was, appropriately, the most dominant closer in the National League. I would like to say he was the best closer in Major League Baseball, but there was this guy in New York. So anyways, in 2004 and 2005, Lidge posted 2 amazing campaigns for the Astros, earning Cy Young and MVP votes. He was at the absolute top of his game. But when the machine took him deep on this at-bat, he finally met his maker. His confidence was shattered, and his promising career went into a death spiral. This is the story of when Pujols broke Lidge, but this is also the story of how Lidge fixed himself. Upon his promotion to the big leagues, Albert Pujols immediately established himself as a superstar. He was the machine. In his first Frankie Valley, which is what I call a player's first 4 seasons, he hit the second most homers, accrued the second most wins above replacement, and had the third highest OPS among hitters in their first 4 campaigns. But what he didn't have in his first 4 seasons was an MVP award. See, the emergence of Pujols had directly coincided with the 4 years when Barry Bonds was eating a balanced breakfast every morning. I think he even played 2004 without a bat, that's how good he was. As such, Pujols fell short of the ludicrous numbers that Bonds put up every season. But in 2005, Bonds missed almost the entire year with a knee injury, so Pujols effectively took over his role and never looked back. His 2005 numbers weren't really any better or worse than what he was already putting up, but with Bonds MIA, Pujols became the de facto MVP and most feared hitter in the National League. Brad Lidge experienced a similarly quick ascension. He burst onto the scene in 2003 when he finished 5th at Rookie of the Year voting. In 2004 and 2005, he put his devastating fastball-slider combo into work and became a strikeout machine. While Pujols was known for avoiding strikeouts like the plague, Lidge was striking out 14 batters per 9 innings before every elite reliever was doing so. His 2004 campaign had, at the time, the 3rd highest K per 9 in baseball history for pitchers with at least 50 innings. And among pitchers with at least 100 innings between 2004 and 2005, he dominated his peers in terms of both strikeouts per 9 innings and fielding independent pitching. The run prevention was certainly there as well, as his 2.07 ERA and 2.08 ERA plus in that stretch put him firmly in elite territory. And, like Pujols, he had taken his crown as the league's best after the throne was abdicated due to injury. This time, it was Eric Gagne who underwent elbow surgery in June 2005. Lidge had also managed to make a name for himself in the postseason. In 2004, the year before Pujols broke Lidge, the Astros and Cardinals also faced off in the NLCS. St. Louis came out on top after a classic 7-game series, but Lidge was unstoppable, striking out 14 in 8 scoreless innings. In their 2005 rematch, Lidge was clutch as well. He saved each of Houston's first 3 victories in Games 2, 3, and 4 of the series. So when he stood on the mound in Game 5 with a 2-run cushion, it looked like he would end the series right then and there. But Albert Pujols had other plans. To start the 9th, Brad Lidge did Brad Lidge things. He gets a swinging strikeout from John Rodriguez and another swinging strikeout from John Mabry. With the bases empty and a solid cushion, he's in the best shape possible for the top of the Cardinals lineup. Leading off was David Eckstein. Now, I'm a stats guy, but you can throw out all the stats here, because David Eckstein was actually the guy who the Cardinals' Devil Magic flowed through in the mid-2000s. For those of you who watched the 2019 season, you'll know that the Cardinals' Devil Magic was flowing through Tommy Edman, of all people. But I digress. On the 1-2 pitch, just 1 strike away from the World Series, David Eckstein sneaks a ground ball through the infield for a single, because, Devil Magic. Lidge falls behind in the count and walks Jim Edmonds, bringing the most feared hitter in the league up to the plate as the go-ahead run. Albert Pujols stepped into the box and swung at strike 1. Then, this happened.
0-1 to Pujols. In the air, left field, and Pujols has given St. Louis the lead. A dramatic, towering 3-run home run.
Lidge royally botches his slider and leaves it hanging for Pujols, a costly mistake. Not only does he hit it for a home run, but it's a demoralizing, towering blast, one that was gone from the moment it left the bat. Brad Lidge's body language says it all. When you're dealing, you have your catcher, the infield, and outfield cheering you on. But when you fail, that pitcher's mound suddenly becomes the loneliest place on the planet. That home run was deposited into the mesosphere, which is actually above the stratosphere. I had to Google it, but yeah, mesosphere. This is a signature playoff moment, but without proper context, it's somewhat misleading. Why is that? The Houston Astros won this series. Yeah, all this did from a win-loss perspective was delay the Astros from winning in front of their home crowd. They went to St. Louis 2 days later and grabbed Game 6, clinching a spot in the World Series. The sins of the homer had been effectively erased, yet there was still a rain cloud above Brad Lidge's head, a rain cloud that would follow him into the World Series against the Chicago White Sox. After losing Game 1, the Cardinals desperately needed Game 2 to tie the series back up. Lidge entered the 9th in a tie game, hoping to send it to extras. Then this happened.
Posednik hits one to deep right center field. Back at the wall. This ball is gone. And the White Sox win it 7-6.
He pitched a clean Game 3, but the Astros ended up losing a 14-inning epic. This was a weird series. Each game was incredibly close, but the White Sox always seemed to come out on top, and that's exactly what happened in Game 4. Freddie Garcia and Brandon Backey each pitched 7 clean innings, and the ball was handed to Lidge in a scoreless game in the 8th. After allowing a Willie Harris single, the White Sox played a little small ball with a Posednik bunt, and a Carl Everett, productive out. Lidge was one batter away from escaping the jam, but Jermaine Dye singled up the middle, driving in the game's only run. Lidge had once again come up short in the playoffs. Pujols had officially broken him. The White Sox closed it out in the 9th and won the World Series. Yeah, despite what the media may tell you, the White Sox did win the World Series in 2005. Around that time, NASA began tracking the ball Pujols hit off Lidge, as it executed a successful orbit of the planet Mars. It wasn't all on Lidge. Roy Oswalt and Roger Clemens were a big part of the Astros' success, but they were exhausted by the time they reached the World Series. Perhaps all Lidge needed was a full offseason of rest before he could return to dominance. If only it were that simple. Brad Lidge pitched in the inaugural 2006 World Baseball Classic, which was actually the first international baseball tournament played in 144p, as evidenced by this extremely low quality video. The trouble with the WBC is that it could throw off an otherwise routine spring training schedule, and that may have just happened with Brad Lidge still in a post-Pujols funk. See, in 2006, for the first time in his big league career, Brad Lidge did poorly. For starters, that slider he hung to Pujols became a recurring issue. If you just examine the 3 outcomes, his strikeout rate fell, his walks went up, and most damaging of all, his home run rate doubled. Too many hangers. That July, Jose de Jesus Ortiz of the Houston Chronicle described Lidge's struggles as tragic, stating that it was difficult to witness such a model professional getting booed in his own ballpark. In September, he lost his closer job to teammate Dan Wheeler. At the end of his disastrous season, Lidge finished with an ERA above 5, converted only 84% of his save opportunities, a far cry from 91% a year prior, and the Astros missed the playoffs. It was a giant step back for the man who was formerly the best closer in the National League. Not the best closer in Major League Baseball though, because there's that guy in New York, yeah. To make matters worse, that offseason, the deep space probe Cassini observed the Pujols home run ball near the rings of Saturn. Yeah, he really got a hold of that thing. On opening day 2007, Lidge blew a save against the Pirates. He relinquished the closing role to Wheeler again. In an interview with Phil Williams of Sabre, Lidge stated that this was a blessing in disguise, as it gave him the opportunity to rework the broken slider that Pujols took deep. As such, he didn't get regular save situations until after the All-Star break. And then he went on a hot streak. At the end of July, Brad Lidge had a season ERA of 2.44, but he struggled the rest of the way, with an ERA over 5 for the last 2 months of the season. Still, Lidge had shown flashes of his old self. He wasn't 100% back, but he was getting there. The Astros, however, were not good, as their win total continued to fall precipitously from their 2005 pennant-winning squad. They made the decision to deal Brad Lidge to the Phillies in exchange for a package of players that included Michael Bourne, who had a fine career with the Astros. But the Phillies had just found their missing piece. It was time for Brad Lidge to redeem himself. With his slider retooled, Brad Lidge absolutely took off in 2008, reeling off 17 scoreless appearances of at least 1 inning to start the season, which is currently the 5th longest streak of all time. After struggling with the long ball, he only gave up 2 homers all season. As he went on this hot streak, the Albert Pujols ball became the first man-made object to exit the Milky Way galaxy. He was absolutely unbelievable in save situations, as he saved 41 games without blowing a single one, which stands as the 4th best perfect season in that regard. In the end, it was a season that rivaled his finest efforts in Houston, as Lidge received both Cy Young and MVP votes for the Phillies. But there were still playoff demons to be exercised. Lidge saved Game 1 of the NLDS after an ultimately harmless run, as he struck out Corey Hart with 2 runners on to escape the jam. He followed that up with a Game 2 save as well. And in Game 4, he stood on the mound and ended the series, just as he should have in Houston. Lidge's NLCS foes were not the Cardinals, but the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he continued his expert work, grabbing saves in Games 1, 2, and 4. Lidge entered Game 5 with a chance to shut the door on the Dodgers season, and he did just that. It was the 2nd consecutive series that ended with Brad Lidge on the mound. He was no longer alone. In Game 1 of the World Series against the Tampa Bay Rays, the Phillies called on Lidge in the tensest of situations. With just a 1-run lead, he was given the reins to close out the game against the spooky part of Tampa's lineup. The first batter up was Carlos Pena, who would go on to finish top 10 in MVP voting. Yet, Lidge handled him with 3 quick pitches, 1 away. Next up was the young stud, Evan Longoria, who also received MVP votes that year. Lidge dispatched him with another swinging strikeout. That left Carl Crawford, who was at that point the most accomplished player in franchise history. He popped out as the Phillies grabbed Game 1. Lidge wouldn't return to the mound until Game 5, with a chance to close out the series. In 2005, he had his chance to close out the Cardinals and blew it, but had stood on the mound to end both the Division Series and Championship Series in 2008. After a stunning regular season, this was his chance to complete his incredible comeback. In the top of the 9th, with 2 outs and the tying run in scoring position, stop me if this sounds familiar, Eric Hinske stepped into the box as the go-ahead run. Then, this happened.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Brad Lidge's career was defined by 2 images. The shell-shocked expression after Pujols took him deep, and the elation of having completely redeemed himself in Philadelphia. In the 1970s, the television program Wide World of Sports entered the phrase, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, into our cultural lexicon. In Brad Lidge's case, they got the order wrong. The baseball gods decided that he needed to experience the agony of defeat in order to make the thrill of victory that much sweeter. It's a cruel way to do things, but sometimes it's the only way to grow. So, to those of you watching at home who may feel a little beat down by the world, who may be looking at this stock photo of a mirror, I have faith that your breakthrough will come. I really mean it. This episode of Baseball Bits was brought to you by The Athletic. The Athletic provides its readers with the best baseball coverage and storytelling available. They employ a world-class team of writers that provide coverage on all your favorite organizations at the local level as well as at the league level. And it's not just baseball either, as The Athletic covers the Big 4 sports leagues, domestic and international soccer, college football and hoops, and even more. On top of this, the website and app are completely ad-free, so no more annoying pop-ups. You can use my link at theathletic.com/foolishbaseball for 50% off your yearly subscription, as well as a 30-day free trial. Once again, thank you to The Athletic for sponsoring this episode of Baseball Bits.